So it's not going to seem, for a little while, like I'm talking about literature. So just bear with me for a little while, and then you'll see how everything kind of comes together. And so with that caveat, just to start off, I want to show you a picture of one of my favorite people in the world. This is Ari Barnett. I'm Zev Barnett. I'm his uncle. And he's actually Guy Barnett's son and Chris Barnett's son over there, my brother. The family came out to support me. So this is Ari on, I know the picture isn't that good, but we need the lights. So this is Ari on his first day. So he was just born. And it's interesting because when I look at this picture, this isn't how I think about him anymore, because that was about 10 months ago. And at this moment in his life, what Ari is aware of in terms of the world is basically three things. He's aware of maybe some other things, but we can for sure say three things. He's aware of when he's hungry, when he's sleepy, and when he's gassy. And so since almost everyone here is a parent, I'm not, but almost everyone here is a parent, I'm sure you can all relate to that when you had your newborns. And so this is him about 10 months ago, and I'm going to show you him now. Okay, and so there's Guy again up there. That's important, just hold on. And so here's Ari now. And actually, that was taken this week. And so when you look at this picture, you can see him. Here he is. He's reaching for that block. And when you see this picture, what you don't see is the effort that it took for him to get to this point. That there was months of him waving his arms around without any coordination, hitting himself in the face sometimes, grasping at the air, and now look at it. When he wants the block, he can stand up, he can climb up the side of the ottoman, he can reach for the block, he can grasp it, he can bite it, well, actually he doesn't have too many teeth yet, but he'll be able to bite it. The next time I give one of these presentations, I'll have a picture of him biting it. But all kinds of things. And so the interesting thing about this picture is when you look at it, what you see is Ari grasping the block, and you see Guy, and he's looking at Ari. And Guy's aware of everything that led up to this moment. He's aware of the fact that Ari had to spend a huge amount of effort before he could grasp this block. That this is literally months, the accumulation of months of effort. Ari, so Guy, and he sees this achievement on Ari's part, and he can hold in his mind, this is just this one moment, Ari's 10 months old, and he can see where he came from. And he can also imagine, the future, that Ari's soon going to be a child, that eventually he's going to be an adolescent, that one day he's going to be a teenager, that he's going to have a girlfriend, he's going to go to college. He can see all of that. He sees this as one point in the arch of Ari's life. Ari sees the block. And that's the difference, or at least one of them, between Guy and Ari. The question is, how does Ari eventually become like his father? How does a child turn into an adult? Or a different way to ask the question is, what's the difference between Ari and Guy? But really what we're after is we want these child to grow into well-developed, intelligent, thoughtful adults. And obviously there's a lot that goes into that answer. And the Montessori teachers, I'm sure, would talk your ears off about early childhood development and all kinds of things that I don't know anything about. The math teachers would talk to you about developing logic and reasoning, science. They talk about pulling observations from the world, understanding the world. But I'm a literature language arts specialist, and so what I focus on is that the stark difference between Guy and Ari is the way that they analyze the world. Art, and I mean any form of art, pictures, movies, music, literature, poetry, anything you can think of. When you think of art, one of the things that it does is it teaches us the value of thinking about the world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I aim to talk about tonight. Or more specifically, how LePort uses art, specifically literature, poetry, how we use art to make our students value thinking about the world. So I'm going to show you another picture in a second. And it'll be familiar to everyone in this room. And what I want you to do when I show you this picture is I just want you to think about how it makes you feel. You don't have to worry about trying to analyze it. You don't have to try figure out what it is that makes you feel that way about it. Just how does it make you feel? So I'm just going to give you a moment to look at it. Just take your time. We have all night. There we go. Okay, volunteer. How does it make you feel when you look at it? Just anything, or what do you think the emotion is in the statue, if you feel more comfortable with that question?
For me, it was the memory when I saw it live.
So that's what.
There.
So you've been tainted because you have this. just looking at it right now, what do you think the emotion is? Yeah.
Discomfort.
You think he's discomfortable? He's uncomfortable?
Well, I am.
When you look at it? Fair enough. Anyone else? Yeah. Power? I definitely see that. There's definitely power in it. Let's go for, yeah.
Calm.
He's calm. Okay, who feels, when you look at this, okay, so I understand discomfort, I understand power. Who feels when they look at the David that there is a sense of calmness or relaxed, that his pose is kind of relaxed? Just raise your hand if you feel that. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to treat this as we would treat a piece of literature. So we're going to look at it, try to figure out why it makes us feel the way it does. So when you look at his pose here, there's a few things that might come to mind when we're thinking about why the pose is relaxed, why it might make us feel relaxed, and also where the power comes from it. But let's start off with just his left arm. So his upper left hand there. And you can look at the sling that he's holding. Is the sling taut? Or is it relaxed? What do you see in the sling? Is it taut or relaxed? It's relaxed. And the hand that's holding it, is it being held with a firm grip, or is it just the tips of his fingers that he's holding the sling? It's just the tips of his fingers. And let's look at where his weight is. If you're not relaxed, if you're ready, for example, to fight Goliath, if you're going to enter battle, you're going to be forward. Your weight is going to be ready to pounce. Where's his weight? His back leg. So he's kind of in this kind of pose. He's relaxed. And if we look at his right hand, does anyone see what he's doing with his right hand? Or maybe you can imagine what he's doing with it? I'm getting a lot of calling out. Let's have someone raise their hand. You're supposed to see what it's like in my class. Kids don't call in my class. Okay, so I heard stone from a few of you. So he's holding the stone. And also that hand, he's not holding it firm. It's just there, it's just relaxed. And when you look at it, so there's good reason when you look at it to feel that way, that this is not David as he's entering battle. This is David, he's relaxed. And in terms of the power, you can see his muscles and the strength that's there. There's a certain confidence to the way that he's looking. And so, yeah, so all of that's in the David. Okay, so we've analyzed the David, and I think that we've analyzed it to the level that you would expect from a good literature class outside of LePort. So this would be the best alternative, I would imagine. But I want to show you the difference between what a good literature class outside of LePort would do and what a LePort class would do. And so we're going to look at the David a little bit more closely in a second. But I just want to ask you a question first. Does it seem odd to anyone in this room that David would be so calm, so relaxed, before he's going to fight to the death someone twice his size? Does it seem odd that Michelangelo would portray David in this relaxed state if he's about to fight Goliath, and everything rests on that fight? Not just his fate, also all of the soldiers that he's with. This is going to determine the course of David's nation. And it's this one moment, and it's before the fight. He still has the stone. It seems odd that he would be so relaxed. Would you feel relaxed if you were in this moment? Okay, let's look at him more closely. So we're going to do what we would do in a LePort classroom. When we see his face, we can understand the statue a little bit better. When you look at his expression, is he relaxed in this expression? Is he calm? No. And in fact, his furrowed brow up here that Michelangelo, that he carved into his face, it's actually not anatomically correct. A human figure, an anatomically correct human figure, could not make this expression. And so Michelangelo is exaggerating his apprehension. When we look at it, he wants us to see that what's coming for David, or what David will have to face, he's worried about it. He's concerned. He didn't want David to be a cartoon character that saunters off to battle and doesn't have a care in the world, you know? And so when you look at this, he starts seeming a lot more real to us. And another aspect of the statue that's interesting when we go back to the earlier picture is, what direction is David looking? This is just a historical note. Is he looking right or left? Left. And historically, painters and sculptors, left is where evil came from. And so he's looking off to left. So what is David looking at over his left shoulder? What is he looking at? What's he seeing? Yeah, Goliath. He's seeing Goliath. And so in this picture, it makes sense. What he's looking at with that furrowed brow and that concern, that anxiety in his eyes, what he's looking at is his enemy. So this is the moment really right before the battle. And so what I would say about David is that even though there is this element of him that's relaxed, he's apprehensive, and even though he's strong and confident, there's this element of him where that strength and that confidence, it's ready for a fight. The sling is not taught, but we know that David in a moment, he's going to be fighting Goliath. And so this is that moment where you take a deep breath before you go into battle. And it's just that moment where everything seems calm, but it's the calm before the fire, right? It's the calm before the guns start going off. And so that's the moment before the fight that Michelangelo captured so well. And so what's the point of all of this in terms of helping your child become an adult? Well, that's what we do in literature class. We take a book, and if you imagine your child now, it might seem like years off that they're going to be in 8th grade. But it'll happen before you know it. And if you imagine your child in an 8th grade classroom, if he's in a good class, they're going to read literature, and he's going to have that emotional response to it. And then his teachers will ask him, well, why do you feel that way? And if he's in a LePort class, then they're going to ask him, well, okay, you feel that way, that's good. Now we're going to look at it more closely. We're going to figure out whether or not your first response to it, it makes sense in terms of the whole book. We're going to think about these characters really deeply. We're really going to go after them, and we're going to see what kind of understanding you have at the end. And hopefully it will be expanded. And the difference is, in the words of Ray Bradbury in Fahrenheit 451, a story that actually I teach in the 8th grade literature class, is that at LePort we don't talk things. We talk the meaning of things. Ladies and gentlemen, in literature class, we experience strange and wonderful worlds, heroic characters, exciting plots, but we don't stop with just the experience, just the emotion. We don't talk things, we talk the meaning of things. In other words, just as you now appreciate Michelangelo's David far more than you did upon first looking at it, children in LePort's literature classes appreciate the works of literature far more after we spend time analyzing them than they did upon first reflection. And the point, or the value of it all, is that our students are learning an approach to the world, whether it be reading a book, looking at a painting, going to the movies, getting into a desirable high school, laughing at a joke. The life that a LePort student has will be richer because they are learning how to analyze the world. Literature class attempts to get your children to look for the meaning of things. So now, thinking back to Ari. And here he is, he's grasping the block. And we were talking about how he spent all that effort, all that time before he could do that. He really wanted that block. Obviously it was other toys at different times, but all of that effort that he did to go months without being able to use his hands to now, this moment, and here he can do it. Well, literature, when it comes to being analytical about the world, literature is that block. That's the reward. You can analyze the literature. Now, obviously, Ari can use his hands in a million different ways. Now that he can use his hands, he can grab this and grab that, and he puts everything in his mouth, and it's wonderful. Well, once you are able to really be thoughtful about the world, really thinking about different characters or what you want to do with your life or any of those types of things, you can use it throughout your life, but you need to get to that point. And so literature, it provides, or art, but we focus on literature, provides that incentive. It is that block. It's what the kids want. They love the literature, and that's why they strive so hard and push themselves so hard and are so thoughtful by the time that they graduate. And that's why they're ready when it comes to high school and to really be thoughtful and really be thinking about everything that they're doing. And that's, I think, the value of literature. All right. Thank you.